Bonjour tout le monde. Aujourd'hui, nous allons parler du futur simple. Hello everybody. Today we're going to speak about a grammar point. We're going to discuss the simple future tense in French. The learning intention for this video is to be able to describe your future plans using the simple future tense. Now, there is a form of the future that you may have already learnt in your studies of French, and this is called the futur proche, or the near future. Now, the futur proche is used to describe what is going to happen in the immediate future. Immediate future, by that I mean on the weekend or this afternoon. Now, the English equivalent of this tense is to say that you're going to do something. On the weekend, I'm going to go to the beach. This afternoon, I am going to cook dinner. How do we form this tense? Well, the futur proche, or the near future, is formed using the verb aller, to go, and that's going to be conjugated in the present tense, and then it's going to be followed by the main verb in the infinitive. Now, what's the infinitive? The infinitive is the form of the verb that you will find in the dictionary. Now, in French, remember, there are three different ways you can end a verb that's in the infinitive. It can end in er, ir, or re. So if your verb ends in er, ir, or re, you can be pretty confident that it's in the infinitive. That means it hasn't been changed for tense. Like it's not in the past or the future. It's kind of neutral. Now, here's an example of the verb partir, to leave, in the near future tense. I'll read it to you. Je vais partir, I'm going to leave. Tu vas partir, you are going to leave. Il, elle, or on va partir. He, she, or we are going to leave. Nous allons partir, we are going to leave. Vous allez partir, you are going to leave. Ils or elles vont partir, they are going to leave. Now you can see that I've got the verb aller in red on this slide, and it's changing according to the person. And it's always, though, in the present tense. And then the verb partir is in the infinitive. We can see that because it's an ir verb, so it ends in ir, and it hasn't changed. So this tense is pretty straightforward. You just need to know how to conjugate the verb aller in the present tense. All right, now let's get to the main show. This is new, the futur simple. Now, what is the difference between the futur simple and the futur proche, or the near future that we just saw? The futur simple is simple, if you like, because it's made up of one single word, whereas we saw that the tense before us, the futur proche, it had two words, and we've also seen that the tense like the passé composé will have two words, an auxiliary and a past participle. Now in English, the equivalent form of the simple future tense is to say, I will do something. So remember, the futur proche, the near future, was I'm going to do something, and the futur simple is something like I will do something. I will go to university. J'irai à l'université. He will become a vet. Il deviendra vétérinaire. Now, how can we form the simple future or futur simple? For regular verbs, it's very, very straightforward. We need to take the infinitive of the verb and add the following endings. So, ai for je, as for tu, a for il, elle, or on, ons for nous, ez for vous, and il, elle will be finished by ont. Now, a trick to remembering these verb endings for the futur simple is that they look very similar to the conjugation of the verb avoir, to have, in the present tense. Only nous and vous is a little bit different. It would be avant or avait. So this is what it looks like. I've got an example of verbs that end in er in the infinitive, verbs that end in ir in the infinitive, and verbs that end in re in the infinitive. So you can see for parler, to speak, all I've had to do is take the verb in the infinitive and put on those endings that we saw on the previous slide. And I've done the same thing for the verb finir, the ir verb. For the verb attendre, which means to wait, we've just had to do one little thing, which was to take the e off the end before we added the ending. So that's the only difference. Okay, I'll read them to you so you know how they sound like, what they sound like. So, parler. Je parlerai, tu parleras, il, elle, on parlera, nous parlerons, vous parlerez, il or elle parleront. So be careful, you're not going to pronounce the S on the tu parleras. Okay, ir verb, finir, to finish. Je finirai, tu finiras, il, elle, on finira, nous finirons, vous finirez, il, elle finiront. And attendre, our verb, our RE verb, we've removed the E before we've added the endings. It becomes j'attendrai, tu attendras, il, elle, on attendra, nous attendrons, vous attendrez, il, elle attendront. Now, before we go, we need to note that there are some verbs, unfortunately, that are irregular, and they're our usual customers. Verbs like être, avoir, aller, and faire. Now, happily though, any verb that's irregular will just change the beginning of its conjugation in the future sampler, the simple future. But the endings are the same for every single verb, so that's great. We only have to learn one set of endings. Now, the irregular verbs won't use the infinitive as the stem. They'll use the stems that I've listed below. For example, the ones you really need to know are être uses ser, so you would say je serai, I will be. Avoir uses aur, so you would say j'aurai, I will have. Faire uses faire, so you'd say je ferai, I will do. Aller uses ir, and that will become j'irai, I will go. I've added a few more, but if you can remember the top 4 that I've just read out, then that's the most important, but we'll just keep going. Devenir, to become, becomes deviendra, je deviendrai, I will become. Venir becomes viendre, so you'd say je viendrai, I will come. Voir becomes ver, you would say je verrai, I will see. Pouvoir, to be able to, becomes pour, je pourrai, I will be able to. Devoir becomes devre, so je devrai, I will have to. And vouloir, to want, becomes voudrais, je voudrais, I will want. Okay, I hope that you've had a great time, an informative time at least, watching this video. And see you soon. Au revoir et à bientôt.